11, and 12. So when I went into the DIBELS site, which is that reading assessment, I was able to gather some, how well did the students do on the benchmark assessment in the winter. If you look at the next column, you'll see the grade. Students were in second, currently in second. They were in first a year ago, and in kindergarten the year before that. Now we could debate this data, and I'm not here to debate it. We could say, were they the same students in 2011 that are there in 2013-14? I mean, there are so many things that we could really review in this data, but it was at least something that I could report on. If we look over at class size, currently, when the study was done, there were 102 students and 4 teachers, but the year before there were 107 students and 5 teachers. And the year before that, there were 121 students and 6 teachers. So I just wanted to show you, if we back this up, it's the number of students divided by the number of teachers will give you your average class size. So today, 2013-14, it's 25.5 students. But if you look at last year, it was 21.4. And the year prior to that, it was 20.2. So basically, I just wanted to go back until I could find class size, relatively speaking, around 20. If you look at the column on the very far right, that is the percentage of students that scored at the benchmark or above on the middle of the year winter test. Okay? So this year, 70.6% of the students out of the 102 scored at benchmark or above. The year prior, it was 67.3. The year prior to that is 72.7% of the student population. Let's make an assumption. We're going to pretend it was the same students in kindergarten, first and second grade. We know that's not the case. But you can see, if you look at that, when class size was 25.5, the students scored 70.6% benchmark or above. The year prior, with 21.4, there were fewer students that scored at the benchmark in the winter. And the year prior to that, it was actually higher. It was 72.7%. Let's pick another one at random, if you don't mind. I'll walk you through just 2 of them. They're there for you to see, and it doesn't matter. Let's pick school D. If we go down to school D, you will see currently the students are in 4th grade, and there are 122 of them with 5 instructors. The year prior was 114 students with 5 teachers, and I backed it 1 year further, there were 6 teachers with 116 students. Again, don't know if they're the same students or not, but just to do some comparisons. Continue to the right, you'll see the class size is 24.4 now. It was 22.8 the year before, and the year prior, 19.3. All the way to the right would be the percentage of students at benchmark or above. It was 68.1% in 11-12, 60.5% of the students in 12-13, and 13-14, 59% of the students. That's how that report was written, and that's the report I'm sharing with you. Basically using one assessment, looking at data that would stretch from kindergarten to grade 4, or the current grade that the students are in. If you would go on to the next page, please. Thanks, Dan. You can see that I just did this with a number of schools taking current class size. I just traced it back until I could find it where at least it was about 20. Okay? And I couldn't go to preschool because we don't do the DIBELS in preschool, so I had to stop at kindergarten. I've worked with data for a number of years. And, I mean, we could talk about Bernhardt's model, and we could go through all the information about Bernhardt's book, and I won't bore you with that information. But what I did do is I tried to say, okay, let's look at a couple pieces of data. There's qualitative data or perceptual data. I called them basically the same thing. And perceptual data is all the information you get from parents, teachers, students, custodians. It's some people would say, well, it's feel-good data. Other people would say it's perceptual data. And perceptual data is extremely important when we do a study of data. There's learning data, there's qualitative and quantitative. In this particular case, it's perceptual data. I apologize to go through this, but I need to share this piece because this is where Bob Steckel comes in and he walks away from the data. Qualitative data, and I'm going to kind of read that, but I'm going to pick out some words. Qualitative data or perceptual data is very clear from the parents and teachers. There's no doubt they have an issue with class size. And if you look back at all the other pages, I just highlighted some of their reports that were sent to me. The data ranges from safety issues to the amount of time that a teacher can spend with a student if the class size is higher. Smaller class size extends the opportunities for teachers and students to address individual needs of all students, allowing for more one-on-one time for students to interface with teachers. The more time a student interacts or engages with teachers, the more opportunities for the teacher to, and this is where the Bob Steckel piece comes in, the more times the teacher can check for understanding, the more time the teacher checks for understanding with a particular student, the more times knowledge gets cemented. And that's just a piece of pedagogy that we've learned through the years of teaching. And again, this is the Bob Steckel coming out of this conclusion. So I can go on here if you would allow me, please. The more time a student interacts or engages with the teacher, the more opportunities for the teacher to check for understanding and cement knowledge. The more times a student interacts with the new knowledge, the higher the likelihood of the knowledge being committed to long-term memory. So all of a sudden we have a student that's learned something, and now he can attach new knowledge to what he's already learned, which will allow him to continue to attach new knowledge to what he's already learned. And we've learned that through many of our educational courses, that once knowledge has been gained, we can attach new to what has already been gained. The students will then have the advantage of attaching new knowledge to the previously learned. The pattern can continue extending the knowledge growth of students. That's the qualitative data piece. Then there's the student learning data or the quantitative data. That's what you get from the assessments. Again, I use that assessment tool called DIBBLES, and the results indicate there is difference in percentage of students who scored at or above benchmark for core instruction, but it doesn't totally correlate with class size in all schools. And this is only one of the many common formative and summative assessments that we administer during the school year. It is the only one that I was able to use that would compare data from grade to grade. And I'm going to end with this comment, and then as the board pleases or is willing to take questions. Qualitative data is enough to suggest that students will be more successful in classes with fewer students. That's the qualitative data. Even though the student learning data does not correlate, I believe we need to address class size by being mindful of student outcomes. So you're now going to look at student outcomes as per the elementary school, and at the same time, make sure that we're fiscally responsible to taxpayers. And that's the tough part, because we need to not only be fiscally responsible to those taxpayers, we also be knowledgeable of the students and how successful they are at the individual grade levels in 7 different elementary schools. So there's nothing that I can say to you tonight that, I know one gentleman and a kind man from Tracy School said that I would certainly come up with a position that I would recommend that we do something about it. And I stand before you tonight and say the data is not clear that it points in one direction or the other, whether you look at qualitative or quantitative data, other than the fact that I would say you almost have to drill in to look at specific data at specific schools and specific grade levels and make decisions based on that versus we're going to have higher class size here and lower class size here based on some of the data that we see from the reports that we obtain. My goal was to come before you and give you a better report than that, but I can't find the correlation. I shared this with Mr. Reinhardt earlier, and that's what I was able to obtain based on the information that I could gather throughout the study.
Well, I think you did a great job. I thank you for the time you put into this. One thing I would say to you, if you take a look at those scores, and if our goal is to have students master what is presented on those tests, I'm sure that we'd all agree where it is quite obvious there's a school in need of more intensive interventions. And I don't think that any of us would dispute, looking over those numbers, where that is located. It's pretty clear. And I guess what I would say to you that given what you just heard about class size and the qualitative versus the quantitative data. I would hope that we would all agree that if we are going to need to look at class size, and we're going to look at the data just in the chart that Mr. Steckel provided us, it's very clear that there's segments of the population in School D where increasing class size will have an even more devastating effect, perhaps, than in other locations. And that's basically because of the performance levels of the students that you see there in classes of 17, of course, versus 27. You can see that that's a significant change from K to 1. But that's a very concerning area there in the school district. Any questions from the board?
Before you ask questions, I also want you to know that one of the things that we do is to try to, and I shared this with you the last time I talked about it, we try to redeploy staff within a school, so not to impact the budget, but if we can redeploy staffing within the school to meet the needs of a current needy group of children, we do that, but we can't do that and then hurt other children by doing it. So there is a balance that we play, and that's reallocating interventionists, moving them around as we need to address a needy group. It's also looking at paraprofessionals and seeing how we can best utilize them in a school to meet a needy population. It doesn't impact the budget, but at the same time, we don't want to impact students that are doing well, that are currently doing well because they're receiving those support services. So we constantly are checking to make sure we don't make any mistakes as we redeploy staff. That's why we take these assessments as often as we do, to make sure that we're not making mistakes as we do.
Now, are there any questions from the board? No? Okay. Then I guess we go back to school readiness dialogue. And I think I was at a couple of the readiness in services, and they did a wonderful job. Just wanted to say that. And it was really nice to see how the preschool teachers and the kindergarten teachers work together and really are helping the transition process from the preschool to the kindergarten. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I promise I'll make this relatively brief. This is another passion of mine. I'm pretty passionate about partnering, and we are partnering with our preschool players. And in partnership with the preschools, we have an opportunity for our kindergarten teachers to interact with the preschool teachers. And we're sharing a lot of strategies to meet the needs of children, because one of the things that we need to do in public education, and if we have that opportunity to do it, if we can level the playing field by the time the children come to kindergarten, we can put more resources in kindergarten and make sure that they meet the benchmarks. Because if they don't meet the kindergarten benchmark, there's a possibility they may not meet it in first or second. And if they don't meet it in third grade, the data is pretty clear that they're probably going to drop out of high school, and those become statistics that we don't want to see. So we have this great partnership. We had about 60 to 70 people at our last meeting. We met at Easton Public Library, preschool players, parents, and kindergarten teachers. Had a lot of sharing of strategies that work at the preschool level and work in kindergarten. We've really we've developed a continuum of skills that we'll be sharing out with the preschool teachers. Like, here are the things that they need to know to be successful in Easton Area School District kindergarten. That's all going out to the preschool partners. Just great dialogue, it really is. And my goal is I want to let preschool folks know we need them. We need moms and dads to be the first teacher, but if they're sending them to preschool, we certainly need quality preschool folks in order for them to come into kindergarten to be successful. So they're getting this continuum of skills, and it's really gone well.
Yeah. But it was really nice, especially the last one with all the make and take ideas.
Because obviously, preschools want to be, they're fiscally responsible to not raise the price of preschool to their parents. And we were talking about a lot of things that don't take a great deal of money to make. And our last one happened to be with the manipulation of numbers. The one prior to that was reading, and the first dialogue was about behavior. Thank you.
I do have a question. Are there going to be any more in-services for the summer or getting a school year?
Our next dialogue session, actually, it's going to be 7:30 in the morning. We have a number of kindergarten teachers and our preschool partners will be meeting. That's our final sharing out session for this year. We are getting ready to schedule those for the 2014-15 school year. And looking to, we have some things that we need to give out to the partners, like our continuum of skills. We have a booklet that will be going out to all preschool partners that will talk about really being ready to come to kindergarten in the Easton Area School District.
All right. Does the board have any questions or no? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Next one is Mrs. Zamil.
Good evening. This evening I wanted to share with the board a very exciting venture that we as a district have started with the United Way. About a year and a half ago, shortly after my coming into this position, I was approached by the United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley about starting a community school in Easton. At that time, the United Way had community schools in 3 other districts. So they have an operation of community schools in Allentown, Bethlehem, and Bangor. As they approached me last year, we were recognizing that there were a number of different transitions that were occurring in our district, and we wanted to maintain the dialogue, but it wasn't the right time necessarily to really start a new venture. So we continued our conversations, and then come last summer, we were very fortunate then to get Mr. Reinhardt on board, who not only believed in the community school model, but was a partner of theirs in Bangor as well and had experience with it. So it really started a whole energy behind us looking toward this community school model in Easton. So we looked to start some conversations with some of our community partners in Easton, and we did a couple different community forums in the fall. We met with a number of different partners from local nonprofits and higher education. And we came together and talked about what would a community school look like in Easton, and what would our strengths be and some of our potential barriers. And we identified those through a couple of those forums. And at that point, we were able to kind of come back and regroup and discuss, okay, we have had these discussions now where would we like to target our first community school? So we decided at that point that Paxinosa was a really great opportunity for us to do a community school in the Easton Area School District. So I want to share with you what that looks like. What is a community school? And I think that the illustration that's up on the screen really does a nice job of illustrating that for us. What a community school does is it really makes the school the hub of the community, and it brings resources into our school and making the school be able to offer all of those resources to our students and families so that it's really a one-stop shop for students and families. When you look at the bottom steps going up into the school, those kind of show you what the core principles of a community school are. The bottom 2 sections on each side show you the types of people that are involved. So you're looking at business leaders, community leaders, higher ed, parents. And then in the school, it shows you a number of different resources and services that come into a community school. A lot of those are things like mentoring. We're providing, looking at family literacy programs, different basic needs that kids will need, arts and music programs. And then when you look at the flagpole all the way up top, and it's hard to read on the screen, but those are the goals that you have through a community school model. So you're looking at higher academic performance, improved positive behavior, and better supported families and neighborhoods. So we felt in looking at our district that Paxinosa was a really great place to really start this venture. So we started those conversations over the winter. We met with the staff at Paxinosa. We got their feedback and their buy-in, and we had some really energetic conversations with their staff. We've also moved forward with looking at what's called a lead partner. A lead partner in the community school model is really the person who's coordinating all of those services. So it's not a district employee that's doing it. It's a lead partner that's doing it. And that person is responsible for really taking all of the things that currently exist in our school, coordinating them, and then filling in any basic or any gaps of things that we don't currently have that we see needs for. So we're in the process of looking at that lead partner, and we're moving forward on a timeline right now in order to secure a lead partner. We are looking to have our community school up and running in the fall, and as we get closer, I'll have more information as we secure our lead partner and we secure a potential corporate partner. But a great thing about this model is, and I think it's something that will be well received by the board, is that this is free to the school district as well. So this is fully supported by the United Way's fundraising campaign and then matching funds by the lead partner. So I think it's a great partnership, a great collaboration that we've been able to start with the United Way, and really looking to get the right lead partner in there to get the current services we have and then match those with services that we need so that we can better support our students and our families at Paxton Elementary School. Moving forward then beyond this year, the United Way has designated 3 of our other schools as priority schools under their fundraising campaign. So we can ultimately look to Cheston and Eastern Area Middle School 5-6 and the 7-8 as well, ultimately down the line, because those are considered priority schools by the United Way as well. But at this point, moving into 14-15, we've identified Paxton, we've laid a lot of groundwork, and we're moving forward on a timeline in order to have this up and running over the summer and then into the fall for the students. Does anybody have any questions?
The services they provide that are also free, right?
Absolutely.
It's totally supported.
It's 100% supported by both the United Way, the lead partner, and then other partners that the lead partner will leverage as well. So just because a nonprofit isn't the lead partner doesn't mean that they can't add resources to it.
They want to be like outside teachers? Is that going to be the...
No, they'll be providing more of the supports than the actual instruction.
So our teachers will still be...
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, they'll do a needs assessment when they come in. So once the lead partner is brought on, they'll do a needs assessment to identify what are our gaps. We've heard from the teachers and we've heard what they feel that the gaps are, but we will do a comprehensive needs assessment to ensure that what we're providing really meets the needs of the individual school. When you walk into a community school in any of the other local districts, or even any community school within the same district, so Allentown has a number of them, they all look different because they're all based on the individual needs of that specific school.
Perhaps one of the best examples that we can give you is if you look at the one box on the upper right-hand side where it says on-site vision, medical, and dental services. It's great to know that I believe every hospital in the Lehigh Valley offers van services to bring those special examination services to schools and other locations. And so one of the things that we can do, I suppose, is as a district try to access it, but we've got greater leverage as a community school to get a visit or two during the course of the school year for the vision van and the dental van, as this van makes the run around the Lehigh Valley school districts. So it costs us nothing. The services are provided at little or no cost. And quite frankly, I know in one example that 40 students were examined and were in need of eyeglasses and were provided with those glasses free of charge, thanks to one of the local vision companies in the Lehigh Valley that's located not far from here in the Palmer Mall. So that they're very generous people, and they provided that service for the students, and so this will enable us to do that. Our faculty and our services remain the same, but they're enhanced through the United Way and their connections and their collaboration with everybody in the Lehigh Valley. So it's a really great set of circumstances.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next we have Mr. Jim Brown, Topeka Science Fair.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. happy to report that for the first time here at the Eastern Area High School, we are going to have a science fair. It's taken us about 2 years to organize, and we're going to have 200 plus projects next Wednesday in the J&K Science Wing down at the other end of the building. We're also going to have special displays by our physics department and our environmental sciences staff. I left a program for all of you at your seats. The science staff is very excited about this. This adds a third opportunity for our staff to present their results besides PJAS and Lehigh Valley. Now it brings it home to Easton for our students. So I hope to see you all next Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. Come take a look at not only what we offer, but our building as well. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, and please pass our thanks on to everybody, including Mr. Cox back there, for allowing this the creation of this and to get it going, because this is a great opportunity for our students. Great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Mrs. DeVitro and with the scheduling timelines for the high school and cyber school update.
Good evening, everyone. I'm passing out the timeline master schedule for Easton Area High School, and there was a request at the last committee meeting if we could provide a timeline of events actually that occur when we do scheduling at the high school level. So I'm not going to read all of them for you. I actually sent them also in with that fighting packet. But we are currently at number 11. We are reviewing course requests and assigning section counts and moving on to the request to Power School. Mr. Huck actually is going to meet this week with his guidance counselors to verify all student course requests that they're all in, grades 9 through 12. And then he will meet with his coordinators individually this week to review the tallies and then begin to sign the section counts. I'm not sure how familiar you are with scheduling, but that I know, Mr. Ryder, you were interested in seeing where we're at, and I have Mr. Huck here as well. So that's kind of where we're at. We're just finishing up all the course request tallies, and then we can begin to sit down, look at them, and see how many sections we need for each of the courses, and then eventually assign our teachers to those courses. I'm not sure if you have any questions on that, but that's kind of a quick overview. And the rest of the year is kind of mapped out as well. So, we good with that?
Any questions?
Yep, that's it? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So now cyber school update.
Yes, I have again, I sent this information out. If you wouldn't mind just passing this along, I'd like to take a look at this. These are hard copies of what I sent to you. And I've had several meetings with 3 different vendors, and the IU included. Ann McIntyre has been at all of the meetings. I also had Jamie and Alyssa Mealy at one of them, and we will meet with VLN tomorrow. But I wanted to just do a quick rundown. I don't want to read this to you again. I provided this to you in the packet. We met with 2 vendors and the IU20. The IU20 was our first meeting on March 5th, and as you can see, they really provide a great service for us, for the Easton School District, as well as you can see the other schools that they partner with. There's 6 other schools that they partner with using VLN services. I don't want to read this to you, but if you turn to the next page, the IU can actually help us in overseeing the entire program if we use VLN partners. And VLN provides cyber school in a box, per se, which they provide the technology, the printer, the headphones, everything that you need, as well as services, contacts with the parents, the teachers. They do a lot of things to get the program up and running for the district because, again, we are just starting out with this venture, and it is a big undertaking. And I feel confident that the IU can assist us in eventually allowing us to take it over as a district. I want this venture to be successful, And Ann and I met actually 2 or 3 different times with the IU, and I really feel confident that they provide a nice program for us, and then eventually will train us, and we'll decide how we can assist and have people in the central office level with things such as special ed students and overseeing their needs, counselors. There's a whole lot of things that occur with the cyber school program, and I think we need the assistance first in order to make that successful. So I wanted to put that out there. The IU does provide a lot of nice services for us. VLN also provides a 4 through 12 program. It's very inclusive. They will provide cyber school in a box, they call it, which means you're a cyber school student who is completely out of school, not in the bricks and mortar classroom. They have the teachers, they have a special ed director, they have special ed teachers. It's very comprehensive, and they also will provide training for our teachers to become trained in teaching these cyber school courses. So we can actually go to a blended model. I know we're not there yet because we need to train our teachers, and we can provide cyber courses in our school, within the actual schools. And some kids can take like a Chinese class that we can't offer, but come to school full time, and then at night take the Chinese class online. They can take summer school classes. We have credit recovery that they offer. So there's a whole array of things that they provide. I just kind of wanted to lay that out there because we feel that VLN really provides a great amount of services, both for the students that are completely outside of school and for those that will be taking courses in the school and can add to their credits and the vast array of coursework. So that's VLN in a nutshell. We did meet with Apex Learning on March 18th, as you can see. Apex Learning, unfortunately, only provides grades 9 through 12. We have approximately 160 students currently enrolled in cyber school, which is $3 million approximately that we're paying right now. Correct, Mr. Simonetta? So that kind of stifles us a bit. They also are more of having our teachers teach the online courses. Our teachers are not certified yet, and they don't have the training to do that. So we kind of felt that wasn't the best option with Apex. They also don't provide any technology. That's a big concern. I had Ann in all these meetings because we have to provide the computers, we have to provide the printers, the scanners, and then we have to do the upkeep of all of these technological pieces, and that's a big undertaking. I know Ann was concerned about the whole technology end of it as well. And again, VLN provides that. March 20th, we met with Blended Schools. Blended Schools, again, is more of a model where our own teachers teach the courses. Again, we're not quite there yet. We're not there yet. It is a K-12 curriculum, but we also have to provide the technology again, and that's a big concern. I'm not saying that VLN is the end-all be-all, but to start up a program, I really feel confident in going with them because I feel that they provide the most amount of services for the money that we would have to put out to purchase the contract with VLN and their services. I also provided a breakdown. I hate to give all these out. I know I sent this to you, but I'm not sure if you have all this information in front of the cost differences between the 3 cyber schools. And when you take a look at that, when you look at the cost differences, you can see that between Apex, VLN, and Blended Schools, when you're looking at 5 classes for a student per year, you're looking at $3,000 a year for Apex with no technology at all. That's all on us. There is no technical support, requires our hardware, and it's basically an on-campus learning situation. When you go to VLN, VLN provides, as I said, the cyber in a box. They provide the textbooks, the tech support, There's a live daily homeroom where the teachers check in from VLN with our students. They provide marketing. None of the other ones provided marketing. They take all that out of our hands, and they try to take back as many of our cyber school students that are out there and bring them back to Easton. And for $5,000 a year, the technology pieces, the online, or the technology piece, and the cyber in a box, the cyber school outside of the brick and mortar as well as inside of the brick and mortar are all included, and they will allow us to customize our courses as we bring on more of our teachers and train them. Blackboard, again, is limited. They are $4,000 a year for a student. They have no technical support. The hardware is on us. They don't do any marketing. It's all on us. It's a blended learning model where basically the cyber school is within our own schools and taught by our own teachers. I know I said a lot. I don't know if you have questions at this point. I could provide more information, but it is a big undertaking, and I think we're ready to do this, but we need assistance. I want it to be successful. We need to do this at $10,000 for a regular ed student, and if we have 10 students sign up for cyber school, that's equivalent to one teacher's salary. $100,000. Right now we have 160 students, 140 of them are grades 5 through 12. I think it's time that Easton, does this and we roll this out in a slow manner, but eventually we will be able to take it on ourselves, and IU wants to release themselves from us and support us, but they are willing to help us get this up and running. So our recommendation at this point is to go with VLN through the IU20. We don't have to, use the IU20 for it's $500 a student. I put that in my notes too, in order to help us oversee it and run the program. But eventually, they would like to, help us bring that into our own and have our own people run it. That's an overview. It's a lot. We put a lot of time into this, a lot of research. We did an evaluation rubric. I sent that out to you as well with the INACL standards, and we evaluated all three of the programs, and really we felt that VLN was the strongest of the three.
Angie, wasn't VLN what we tried once before?
It was.
And what makes it different now than previous?
VLN is actually not different, and I'm going to tell you that it was the way it was.
I think there's a major difference, and I think you're seeing that major difference tonight in the communication from the administration to the school board. And I think that's critical, because what we had last time was basically a quick presentation, and then somebody ran with it. And there was not a lot of input back and forth. And based on that lack of input, lack of communication, we were probably in the dark until I'll use the term, the crap hit the fan, because of the lack of organizational component. That organizational component has changed tremendously. I think VLN is the way to go. I think the support from IU20 is the way to go initially, because you need that get-up time.
You do.
You need that support, and realistically, we've got 16,750, and we have 500 for each kid for the IU. Gee, let's get 2 kids in it. I think we've taken care of that from basically 10,000 a kid. So I really like the fact that you did the research. I like the fact that you brought in other places. But if we go back and say, well, you know what? Maybe we learned a lot from last time. Whether it's VLN or whether it's Apex or whatever it is, we did learn a lot. And obviously, by going through this progression, I think we're going to be in much better shape as a district. And obviously, when you look at 160 students, obviously, it's not a guarantee we're going to get them all back.
No.
But I think the realization is kids will come back in a substantially solid program. Thank you.
Okay, how are you handling the issue of when they don't meet the criteria? We found out last time they were falling short. How are we addressing that?
Who was falling short?
The
VLN?
students were.
The students,
were
yes.
not making the grade.
And again, I don't want to blame VLN because it wasn't VLN. It's the administrative piece. I'm going to say it. It's how you roll it out there, how you provide the services, and we didn't have the support administratively. One person can't do it.
But I mean, we're not teaching it, somebody else is actually
Some-
handling
yes,
it.
so-
if the students aren't getting it, what's in the contract to protect us?
I would think that being in the relationship with Power School, that is obviously one way for anybody administratively, our guidance, our principals to check to see where kids are online. So I think you can have checks and balances just with the aspect of Power School. I see that Power School's mentioned down here, so there's
They
got to
do
be
use Power School.
articulation into Power School for BLN, and if that's a possibility, you can check that, and basically you can double check.
And I checked with VLN, and VLN actually has these teachers that are in constant contact with the parents and the student. If there is a problem, the VLN people contact the parent, the student, and if we go with the IU for the $500 a student, they will actually assist us in making sure that those contacts are made, guidance counselors are contacted, principals are contacted. They're the in-between people. We want to eventually take that over, but we're not ready to do that, in my professional opinion, as well as meeting with the other directors. But that's the key.
So they didn't use any of that previously?
It was used, but it wasn't overseen appropriately. It just wasn't. It was too much. There were emails that came through that weren't read and followed up on. And it's a vast undertaking. Cyber school is a vast undertaking, and you need to have the right people in place in order, to oversee this and make sure that the kids are successful. And not all kids are going to be successful no matter what you do, but at least we can provide that support, and that's what the IU does. But VLN does a nice job with that as well. It's just that you have to have somebody overseeing that. You have to, devote it to that.
As you talk about it, does it make sense that it becomes, so for various reasons, almost a subset of our district?
Yes.
Okay, so that it's not really part of our district, that we actually establish another type of body or whatever that is basically for cyber school.
Well,
and that we can use students from other school districts that don't want to oversee, like you're saying here, the IU would rather not. That's fine. But there may be other school districts that could be interested, and so then they would contract with this other service that we have as a sub-service, so that it's its own center, its own responsibility, and it doesn't put the burden on anything else that we have going on. Is that a possibility?
That other students actually sign up for our cyber school. Is that what you're saying?
We have Easton School District,
Mhm.
and there's another group over here that we set up that's called Easton Cyber
Yeah.
School. Easton Cyber School has their own diploma situation and everything. Easton Cyber School has their, per se, an administrator or guidance counselor that's responsible. Easton Cyber School is responsible for the entire program.
But are you saying not using the VLN platform?
Oh, no.
But you would
Using
still want to
VLN,
use that?
absolutely.
I would think Go ahead, Ann. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that the IU provides, one of the strengths, I think, is that it's a whole consortium of school districts, so we do have that benefit of a lot of other districts that are involved. So if there was a course that someone else was offering or creating, we would have that as a resource, right? But to have that school, like what we did last time was have a separate school. Even on our website, it was listed as all of the schools, and then the separate school was cyber school. Is that what you're saying?
No.
You're
No,
trying
sorry.
to recruit other students to come in from other districts.
Even for our own district students, that we have this own total thing, so we don't deplete any of our other current resources that we have going on.
So we would
And-
actually have to hire someone just to do that.
Right.
I have to tell you, I hate to take up so much time, but I think this is important. I did speak to several other school districts, and one of them was Pleasant Valley today. I actually got a hold of Dr. Lee Lesesco. He actually does that. That's like his entire job. And you're right. He said that takes up like 110% of his job. It's very consuming. And they have people specified just for cyber school.
Right.
So yes, we could certainly do that. And that's why I feel like we need to move forward on this because we are losing a lot of money, but we're not quite ready to take it on yet on our own. And that, we're not there yet. But I really feel confident that the IU could assist us in
Right.
going in that direction.
If you begin with the IU, you start to build your structure and everything.
Yes.
And you start to inherit it from the IU, you continue to build that structure. And none of the burden then falls on any of the existing staff.
That is correct.
It's really a total standalone. It's almost like what you would call, if you're in the business world, a separate company.
I would. That would be the ultimate. I mean, I'm willing, because of financial, situations, we're all willing to take a piece of it, whatever we need to do in order to make this happen. But you're right, it is, it's a lot of work, and it would be best in a separate, like a separate position or positions in a secretary. Well, I don't know if you need a secretary, somebody to oversee all those emails and contacting the parents, et cetera, et cetera. And the IU said that they want to work with Easton. I have this quoted: work with Easton School District on a gradual release plan. It's called, as capacity is built for self-management. And the goal is to provide a manager and a coordinator for the cyber school program during its implementation phases as capacity within the program is built. So as capacity increases and our targets designated by Easton School District are met, a gradual release model is used to methodically transfer management responsibilities to the designated school district staff. So that's our ultimate goal. I don't see us using the IU forever. They want to release the responsibility to us. So, that being said.
Okay, so back to the question again.
Yes.
If we want to move ahead with the concept of, sure, you start with BLN and the IU is doing it, but starting to look at the concept, what do we, I guess it's a question for Mr. Freund, of what do you have to look at and everything to set something up like that?
Bob, I could, some places you have to hold down, some places you have to hold up. I think your idea is an ambitious one. It's an idea that, frankly, we've dealt with in a couple of other districts. And I think, for the most part, with some imagination and some dedication and investment, 90% of what you suggested can happen. The thing that I'm not sure that's there legally is the ability to accept students into a district-owned and run cyber school and get paid for it. And primarily because school districts are not qualified applicants under the cyber law. So that would have to be addressed. But all your other ideas, I think, are viable and doable under the current legal scheme. And as long as you have kids using it from this district, it can operate.
Well, that's the main goal, is to take our kids back.
Yeah, but Bob expressed, an expanded idea. I'm not sure that the legal underpinnings are there for that at this point, unless we get very imaginative.
Okay. I know I presented a lot. There was a lot of information also in that zip file that I sent you on each of the vendors. But I don't know if you're ready to make a recommendation for the board meeting. But I can tell you that May is a real important time for recruiting our students back. All the research that I've done and the people that I've spoken to, that's when the cyber schools start to reach out to students and they try to recruit them. So if we want to be aggressive and start this in the fall, we should start our campaign in May, which would mean by April board meeting we'd want approval. If you're not comfortable with that and you want me to do more research on it, I'd be more than happy to. But that's kind of where we stand at this point. So I want direction from you and want to make sure you all feel comfortable in moving forward with this.
I just would comment with two things. First of all, I hope that before this is over, you're going to be able to help me solve one of the great mysteries of what I think is the educational world, and that is how districts and parents work hours and hours and hours developing IEP plans for students with special needs, and how cyber schools can deliver something through a screen without the benefit of having those opportunities to come converse and talk and touch and communicate with each other. So I don't know how that works, and so someday I hope you can say to me, Mr. Arnott, this is how they're able to do something through the use of a screen that we can't seem to do person to person. But that being aside, what we need to do is we need to as a group, give direction so that we can launch this effort if we're serious about it in September, because time is really critical here. We do want to make our students who are attending other schools aware that this is an opportunity now that we're going to restart, and the end result is an Eastern diploma. And I think we'll have some lots of work to do on this. So we would like to have some direction, if we could, for the agenda for the April meeting.
I think we should have an agenda next time.
Yeah, well, that would be the question that I would ask the board if you're ready for that kind of a motion.
What do you guys think? Do you want to make a motion? Anybody?
We're discussing it. Do you need?
You know, I would be, I think we can make that motion. There'll obviously be a little bit more discussion at the next board meeting,
That's fine.
but we could vote on it.
Okay.
But I think you're taking the right steps. Very passionate about this. I want that from you. Passion, you know, that's important. And as much as I wanted to see it work last time, we didn't fare very well. But I think that because of where you're at, because of what we've learned as a group,